Hello. Okay, I think everything is working today, but let me know if that's not the case. Let's see. Testing. All right, well, that's working. Everything looks like it's working, so I'm just going to go with that assumption. So hello and welcome to this Friday office hours. I'm Tracy Lenz. I'm a petroleum engineer and the owner of Pecan Tree. We are a mineral appraisal shop. We started off doing appraisals. Now we have an online tool that is a DIY, like a Zillow's estimate or a Carfax or something like that, where you can go and look for your minerals and what they're worth. So our goal is to help educate the general public on minerals. And hi, let's see. Hi, Mom. This is Mom, guys. Our goal is to generally educate the public on minerals. It's a very opaque, very not translucent. It's just another opaque, right? It's a very clouded, we'll just say, industry in terms of education and knowledge. It's available online, and it's available to people who are everywhere across the U.S. because minerals can be anywhere, right? So, well, the people who own the minerals can be anywhere. So it's real property, but unlike real property like a house, you can, own it. I mean, it's more like a rental property, I guess. You can own it wherever. You might inherit it from wherever. So that's what we're doing. We're educating, and we're using this as an opportunity to ask any question you want. I will be taking them just throughout. We'll probably do either 30 minutes or an hour, depending on how many questions there are and how talkative I am today. That's always always hit or miss for an introvert, how talkative they are. I can get riled up pretty easily on this topic, so we might go longer, but we'll see. First, I wanted to start with just a little bit of, what's going on this week in the world of oil and gas as an informative space. Then I'll be jumping into a question that we got over the week, and then if anyone has any live questions, I can take those too. But I know that this is not the early stages of this office hours, and questions come and go. So it's, I always want to have pre-planned content for these things, but also give y'all a chance to ask questions live. If you want to ask a question, but you don't want your name to be associated with it by putting it in the chat, or maybe you just aren't in a place where you can chat on YouTube, feel free to email it to kelly@pecantreeog.com. She's our project manager, and she will make sure it gets to me somehow. Which reminds me, I should probably have my chat up. Cool. All right. Just to make sure they aren't trying to ping me to let me know about something. Okay. So the first thing I wanted to start on was just there's been a lot of talk on all the things that are affecting oil and gas prices. I'm not going to get into politics on these office hours. I'm just not a real political person. Crystal just made her appearance for the trip for this office hours. That's the dog. Hopefully she'll be quiet this time. I have it set up now to where there shouldn't be mowers, there shouldn't be barking dogs, there shouldn't be little kiddos coming in halfway through the office hours, despite how entertaining I'm sure all of that is. But the first thing I wanted to start on is what are actually oil prices doing right now, and where are they trending? What are we looking at today? So I'm going to switch over to this. Let's see if it works. It worked. So proud of myself right now. Y'all don't even understand. Okay, so we have this is our view of the commodity prices. It's what the currently it's trading at. So we have the Henry Hub and West Texas Intermediate. I'm just using those as benchmarks, and my dog, she challenged me. I must have thrown down a challenge to her, because now she is trying to be a butt, but it's fine. So these are the forward strip. So we have today's date. Let's see. Can y'all see my mouse on this when I hover over it? Nope. All right. So we're gonna do this. Okay, here we go. So this here is where we are today. So this is as of March 20th. Oil is trading at 68.08 for at using the West Texas Intermediate like benchmark. So any oil that is that type of oil will sell for that much. And then what the market does is they say, well, there's the futures, like how much are the future oil and gas, contracts trading for? So how much am I going to pay you for oil and gas next month and the next month and the next month? And then that's what this forward strip is here. So if someone says they're using NYMEX pricing, NYMEX forward strip, this is what the future commodities, like future contracts, are currently going for if you were to be an oil and gas trader, for example. And then behind this number is historical. So this historical contract closing prices. So how much did oil and gas sell for each month in the past? So we are going kind of trending down coming off of $80. Let's see, here is the beginning of the year, right around here. Let's see. How was the Kansas barbecue? I have not gone there yet. So Kansas barbecue, I'm going to Kansas City in, was it June? June for the AAPL, and I guess it's the Landman's Association, like the National Landman's Association's conference. It's not going to be my first time there, so haven't gone there yet. But so first of the year is right around here, and then so yeah, we're down, what's that, about 75 down to 68, so, about 10% or so on oil, and then gas is doing the opposite. So we have gas coming up there. So this is my first time using this little drawing tool. Look at that. I'm not going to jinx it by saying things are working today, but they're kind of working. Now, the gas prices, it does this little bump, and that's every winter. So in the winter, gas is a little more hard to come by locally where it's cold, and so just whenever it's cold, that's where gas prices are expected to be higher. And this is natural gas. Okay, my dog's gonna force my hand. She's currently whining, and it's just gonna go down whole. So I am going to leave this up, and y'all can just absorb it and think of what questions you have on it for the split second while I go open the dog door. Okay. She's smarter than I am, I swear. Okay. So I just wanted to give that feedback of here's where we are. This spot price will move around quite a bit. So the spot price being that 68.08 and the 398, that'll move around quite a bit. And especially for natural gas locally, it'll move around quite a bit because that's what it's trading at Henry Hub, which is in southern Louisiana. So if your gas is selling for anywhere not in southern Louisiana at Henry Hub, it will be selling for a different price. But then that fluctuates quite a bit. But even just at those exact hubs, it fluctuates quite a bit. And so seeing what the rest of the forward strip's doing can kind of help guide if overall the value is going up or down, or is the market just seeing this as a little blip. So I wanted to cover a little of that first. Let's go to... Okay, so the next question I wanted to, there was some, there was quite a bit of interesting, news on CERAWeek and Drill Baby Drill, and the Energy Secretary saying that it'd be $50 a barrel, and the market's general reaction to that. I'm just kind of watching this right now. I did see one interesting note on who's excited about this, and the fact that there's natural gas basins, they might be interested in this because natural gas is going up. Because if you're producing less oil, then you'll have less associated gas with the oil, and then the basins that are flooding the market with gas because of the oil production, that will decline, which would leave more space for the pure gas plays. So that was an interesting take. I don't necessarily have a lot of my own opinion on this yet. I've been just interested, following along with it because there's interesting like thoughts on what $50 oil actually means for oil and gas companies today, but there's so many things that go into this that it's hard to take any charts at face value, but it's an interesting news story to follow. I think as soon as I started seeing what went into some of these charts, the less I started actually believing any chart I ever saw. And then I think anytime you see something that you're very familiar with and then how it's being presented to the public, you're like, wow, I don't know what to trust at all anymore. So, it's just following along at this point. But let's see what we got. Harold Ham said we need $80 oil for drill baby drill. I mean, I definitely, that's been the high end of what I've heard. Let me switch back to, it's like I have two cameras technically, and that one's kind of an awkward one to look at. But that's kind of the high end of what I've heard. And again, I'm not an economics expert. I'm a mere engineer who does not have a finance department telling her what price decks to use anymore. So I have to find my own now. But the range that I generally see and have heard is 60 to 80 for the sweet spot of development, and where things are economic but not too economic to make people like stretch their neck out too far or to make other things more economic, because the higher oil prices go, the more people will be looking to other sources for oil. And yeah, I think 80. I don't know. The whole drill baby drill thing, I'm just generally a little, I think I'm too close to it to really like, I can like prick too many holes in that idea that the concept doesn't make sense to me because I'm just too in it. Cause yeah, I'm not going to get into it too much, but we'll be drilling as long as things make sense to drill. And that generally means between 60 and 80 at this current time period. Slide shows a great cost leadership by EOG and Diamondback, so much that third place is, I'll go back to that slide for you. Yeah, so there's things going into that. So EOG and Diamondback also have quite a bit of like royalty strategies going on, and they're generally in some higher value plays. Like there's things, and then again, this is one of those like I never trust a chart at face value that with companies that size, who knows what else they're including or not including and shuffling different places to make that number be that number. But that's why I more just look at all the news stories and try to come up with what is generally being said and then just follow along. But all right, I think that's enough of that. And I do want to hit one question. It's a little more involved, but it is a more common one. So similar to last week, or no, 2 weeks ago. Also, thank you for being patient with me last week. I did try to do too much last week and had to just finally let something go. So this had to be it. So 2 weeks ago, we took a question that was a little more involved, and I'd like to do some more of those. And depending on the week, I'll have more or less time to dig into it. Hopefully I'll have more time as I go, once I get more in the groove. So here's the question I wanted to look at today. And y'all are in the chat, I believe. So feel free to, if I have questions or if I answer things in a way that doesn't answer it necessarily for you, let me know, because I tend to do that. Like things that it doesn't seem like it's necessarily, I feel like I'm over explaining a lot of things, and then I'll get the feedback of that I was speaking Greek and I didn't even know I knew it. So didn't know I knew Greek. Okay, so I will read this because I know that all y'all are on different size screens, and this might be, it's not the most entertaining stuff to watch, so you might be listening just while you're doing other stuff. So the question is that my cousins and I have been contacted by, and I took out the names of the buyers and the people. My cousins and I have been contacted by a buyer to sell our fractional mineral interest purchased in 1930 by my great-grandfather, who died in 1960, according to the ancestral flowchart they sent us. Isn't it interesting how these strangers sometimes know more about our past and history than we do sometimes? It's a little scary these days, but okay. He purchased 1/64th of 1/8 of the landowner's 1/8 royalty interest. So just this alone, I do want to go over how to interpret just this piece. So I will highlight it. We will come back to this because I know that a lot of people end up getting this in their deeds, and it's not the most straightforward thing to understand at first. Watch your videos. Thought we try to research the offer they sent, but are getting nowhere without detailed land plot drilling information. Attached is all we have, a confusing 4-page copy of the Karnes County royalty deed. And this is, I didn't take out some of the stuff because it's public, like you could go and research it also. But I did end up blurring out the names. I did just a screenshot of the deed, but because there's a lot of names, I didn't blur out everything. And so I just put the little screenshot as opposed to showing the entire deed. We're not going to go through the entire deed because it's a bit long, but we'll go over kind of how to. So we have the deed showing the deeds from my cousin's sale. Oh wait, and a Texas file copy showing the deeds from my cousin's sale of her royalty interest, and their 2023 deed to buyer number 2 for an unknown amount. We've been offered $6,000 for 1/6 share of whatever. That's all we know. We would love to know how much they got from buyer 2. Is there an easy way to find that out? That would tell us if the offer they sent is fair or would give us a little negotiating power if it isn't. And I apologize for my voice. Hopefully it improves. Okay, question. Where do we go from here? Or, considering the costs involved to get detailed information, which might eat up our $6,000, should we just accept whatever we're being offered? Now, this is something that I hear this so often that I've been asked if I was given a different opportunity to do something else, if I would, or, since, we started this company and, we are taking a more startup approach to things if we're trying to sell quickly. The ultimate goal always has to be able to answer this type of question, because this is always the type of question that bugs me that there's not a good answer for. So I've been told by other people who I've talked to that, like, oh, mineral owners, they have so much money. There's never these little, no, that is not the majority of mineral owners. The majority of mineral owners fall in this bucket here. The ones that are the industry is working with, yes, the ones that rise to the top in terms of the top 10% or 1%. Like there's for every industry, for everything you do, there's always going to be people that are at the high end of the distribution as to who's getting what. But percentage wise and numbers wise, there's so many people in this bucket of, they don't have a lot, they don't know a lot about it, but the cost to figure out more about it is all the same. So what do you do then? So this is I both love this question because it's what we're here for, but also I wish that this didn't have to be a question just in general. So maybe eventually we'll get there. But the first thing we'll look at is this 1/64 of 1/8 the landowner's 1/8 royalty interest. So, and I will show this is, again, I blurred out some of the names, but here's the high quality, copies that the county has on record. And there's, this is probably, was this from the 60s? Is that what I remember? So, 1930. So yes, these are quite dated in terms. So we're lucky they're typed. Sometimes there's not dated, or there's not typed ones. Handwritten deeds are always fun to interpret, but at least it's typed. So the 1/64th of 1/8 of the landowner's 1/8 royalty interest. Here, this green highlighted portion is where that's from. So one nice thing about the older deeds is that they do give you some hint as to how much the person has. Now, the newer deeds will just say, I'm assigning what I own to this person with no clue as to how much they own, because they might actually not know what they own. And there's different levels of warranty on if you even own it, like warranty deeds and special deeds and quit claims and different levels. But it's rare that I see something these days that will say how much the person owns. So this is at least a start. Now, a lot of these are easier to read backwards. So we're going to start with the landowner's 1/8 royalty interest. So that is related to the, if you own land, and, what's the best way to do this? I want to draw, but I don't know if I can draw sufficiently enough with my tools to make it actually useful. So we'll just talk through it. The 1/8 royalty interest is that when the landowner doesn't want to drill the well themselves, they lease it to someone, and the typical lease royalty rate back before the 2000s, maybe before the 80s to be sure, was 1/8. Now there's a lot of law about, in this particular case, were they talking about the typical 1/8 royalty? And so if it was leased for something else, would it actually be 1/64th of 1/8 of what it's actually leased for? Or is it always 1/8? That's the fixed versus floating royalties issue that you might hear about in a lot of like case law. And like if you follow the blog post by the lawyers in the oil and gas, that's one of the ones that's coming up quite a bit. But let's just take it at face value and say that it's leased for 1/8 royalty interest. The landowner didn't want to drill the well, but they wanted to get their share of it, so they leased it to someone who did want to drill, and they don't have to pay to drill the well. They're just gonna take 1/8 of the income as like their payment for giving it to that other person. So then we just do the math backwards, right? So 1/8 of that is, I guess I could write it out this way. So if I move this over a little bit, and then, riveting content right now, I'm sure. So 1/8 of 1/8. So with the star being the same as a multiplication symbol for anyone not immersed in math all the time like I am. So we currently have 1/8 of the landowner's 1/8 royalty interest, and then the next one back is 1/64th of that. So 1/64th of that. So if you literally take a calculator and do 1 divided by 64 times 1 divided by 8 times 1 divided by 8, like you can do it that way. You can, however is easiest for you. We'll just go ahead and do, so 1/64th is 0.0156. And then times 1 makes it the same, so we can just divide by 8 twice now. So divided by 8, and then divided by 8. So this is what's called the decimal interest that this grandpa purchased back in the 30s for the land that is described here. So I'll go ahead and copy this. Oh, yeah. Y'all couldn't see my calculator that whole time. I had a calculator open, and there. Now you can. This is what I thought I was showing you, was this. So just to I know this is the simple stuff, but sometimes the simple stuff is what trips people up. 1 divided by 64 divided by 8 divided by 8 equals this number here. So we're going to copy this over to our PowerPoint just so we have the numbers. So this is what is called the decimal interest. And the opposite of a decimal, or alternately, there's a percent interest, which to get from decimal to percent, you multiply times 100. So, or you could just move this decimal over 2. So 1, 2. We put the decimal here for percent. So we got 1, 2, 1, 2. This is our percent interest. So for every dollar that is produced on this land that is described afterwards, so the following described lands, you're going to get 0.024 blah, blah, blah percent of that dollar. That is the income that was purchased. So, okay, just getting clear on that. Again, I know this is very easy stuff for some people, and again, not easy for others. And sometimes you just get so far into it, you don't realize that it's actually an easy thing that you're looking at because there's so many different ways to show it. And let's see. Okay, so we have the next issue. So yeah, I think I probably belabored that just enough. Okay, we'll just go in order. The next question is they'd love to know how much they got from buyer number 2 because they're seeing that a cousin sold some to buyer 1 and some to buyer 2, and they don't know how much they sold for, but they want to know if it's comparable. So the short answer is no. There's not a good way to know what things sold for. So this question here, there's not a good way to know what things sold for because when people file the deeds, they just say they only have to say that they sold for like $10 in considerations or for $100 in other considerations. They just have to show that it was sold for something. It wasn't a gift. Is really all they're doing is they're saying I sold it for money. I don't have to tell you how much money I sold it for. And there's no public database of how much everything sold for. And that's part of the problem of why things are difficult and why things are very opaque is because you have to know people in the industry in order to get that information. Like, so calling people, having a network, knowing people, like one of the common recommendations is to go to the local coffee shop near where your minerals are and just ask around because there's probably other people that own minerals in that area. And that's great if you like live within 30 minutes of it, but most of the owners that I talk to, they live across the country from it, let alone anywhere nearby. And then the chances are of finding someone who actually knows significant information, you have to find the one person. So there are some options of places to start to get this information. So yes, our website does aim to calculate how much things should sell for. And that is our bread and butter. That's what we're doing. But I'm also trying to provide like, what are the other ways also to learn this information and to cross-reference it and verify. There's forums and websites that you can go to try to connect with other people in the same area and say, hey, have you heard from this buyer? What are they offering? There's a, I think it's owned by farmers now, but a lateral leasing report. So that's just a county-wide number saying like things in a certain county are typically going for a certain amount. But I will just let you know for Karnes County, that's not going to work. Karnes County has a much too wide of a range for something that's county-wide to be helpful. And the other thing to be aware of is that in order to get things apples to apples on what one person sold it for to what you should sell it for, you have to know how much they're selling and what it's leased at. So with that same 1/8 of the landowner's 1/8 royalty interest, if they're leased at 1/4 royalty interest, then since we're dividing, the low like smaller numbers makes it bigger, right? Smaller numbers makes it more worthwhile. If they're leased at 1/4 royalty interest versus 1/8, then their interest is worth double what this is worth. So you have to know several of the variables in order to like compare them reasonably. So even if you do have all the information, sometimes it's difficult to get those comparables to where they're the same thing. So in housing, we have dollar per square foot, but this is the same as getting it to dollar per square foot, and the industry's term for that is dollar per net royalty acre is typically what people pull it down to. And a net royalty acre is, if we go back to this example, royalty acre assumes 1/8 interest, or royalty interest, so we're already there. And then you just multiply this decimal interest times the number of acres. So if we're just looking at the 140 acres in this royalty deed here, I'll switch back to here. So if we're just looking at this royalty interest or this decimal interest here, and we're just looking at this 140 acres out of starting point, there's a bunch of ands in there, but just looking at this first blue portion here, this little bit here, we could just take that number and multiply it times 140, and now we have net royalty acres. And it's tiny, right? So this is 0.03 net royalty acres. And I will say, in Karnes County, it would need to be tiny in order for the whole offer to be $6,000. So Karnes County has the highest dollar per acre in the Eagleford that I see. So the Eagleford is the trend that's being developed across South Central Texas. And if let's see, y'all are going to see behind the scenes for a second. It's so odd having your face across websites and stuff, but here we go. So I'm just going to zoom in on Karnes County. So this is our website. This is our map. It's free to poke around. It's free to look for things. It's free to create a portfolio or create an account. Free to save tracks to your account. And I'm going to go to Karnes County here. Yeah, it's actually a total of 4.3 acres. Yes, so that was one of the things that I noticed in this, is that this is just the first little bit, and there was several pages of descriptions in there. So you'd have to add up all those acreage and then multiply it times that interest. So just this little blue part was that portion of it. Well, actually, this is why I don't do math on the fly normally, but I might need to multiply that times 8 too. But anyway, I'll follow up on that. Whitney, if you're listening, could you check my math on that? if the 1/8 is included in the net royalty acres or not? Karnes County. Okay. So Karnes County, this will zoom in. And so we have a heat map in the background here showing the value per acre. And so the highest is in purple, and then it goes to where the lowest is in green. And so if I zoom back out here, you can see that Karnes County is like a bullseye on this trend here, which is called the Eagleford trend. I have a hard time saying that for some reason. So this is Eagleford. There's also Austin Chalk. 4,000, so Tiffany, you say, or Cheryl, it's 4,376 acres. Got it. Okay. Yeah, okay, so I multiplied times 1 extra 1/8. My brain started working again. So this 1/8 is an assumption, so when we're calculating net royalty acres. So I will just do the math here, just for completion's sake. 4,376 acres. And the word that people like to use is gross acres. That's if you were to put a fence around it, how many acres you would have. And then we're going to multiply that times 1/64th. And then multiply that times 1/8. And then that's going to be the net acres. So, and then its net royalty acres will be the same as net acres because it assumes a 1/8 interest. So I did an extra math on the fly, so I don't trust myself. Although I do have my little, trust me, I'm an engineer pin on, I promise. Okay, got my calculator still open. Yes, I do. Okay, so clear, we have 4,376 divided by 64 divided by 8. So this is showing 8.54, and there could be, that actually is closer than I thought I might be from just doing this type of rough math. It could be that the descriptions exclude some of those acreage. So if you add up all the 140 acres, 113 acres, 113 acres, there could be stuff in there that says like excluding the south 100 acres or things that would add up to that. Or this is describing, oh, that's right. So this might be just your half of the total because this is what your grandpa purchased and this is just the lineage. So this is what a very ballpark number is. So we're kind of backing into what ballpark we're talking about. And so this 8.5, I'll just net royalty acres here. And then, so this is where you'd want to get confirmation on what exactly you own and what exactly you're selling, because say that they say you own 4.376, but you actually own 5. How they're pricing it is on a dollar per acre basis, and they're paying you on a dollar per acre basis, and you'd want to get the deed structured or the sales agreement structured in a way that says, if title shows that I owe more, I want to receive more money total. So it's kind of like if you buy a house and the house appraises for, you get it surveyed and there's actually an extra closet, that should increase the price of the house because there's more square footage than you expected. So similarly, you'd want that same thing in a sales agreement. The difficulty is that we're talking very small numbers. So these types of buyers that are sending out offers for $6,000 and $8,000 are ones that they're doing very broad blanket things. I would be interested if there weren't wells on this acreage. And we'll just look up this first survey, the Hernandez survey, just to get a feel for where at least one of them might be. So we have, so is it the JA? Wait, no, this is the abstract. So A-4 is the abstract, A-140 is the abstract. So I think it's A Hernandez, right? Is that what I already forgot here? A Hernandez survey, yes. Okay, so if we go to this A Hernandez survey, we have a quick create here that you can create a tract. I'm going to close that for right now. So this is the A Hernandez survey, and it's a large tract that's included. So it is, let's see, does it say? Somewhere we just changed our user interface for this particular part, and we used to have a place that said how many acres were circled using this thing, but I can't find it right now. But this looks to me like it's roughly, well, this right here is probably 640 acres, just as a ballpark. So we're talking, this is a very large, 10,000 plus, maybe 20,000 acre tract or survey. So it's somewhere in here if we're only talking about 440 acres of this. And this is called meets and bounds surveying. And there's going to be a long description saying exactly how this 140 acres is described. And that's what they're referring to as these deeds. That's where it's described in full. And so if they say you go left, 500 feet to where the chicken laid an egg and then turn right and go, another 1,000 feet to the old spruce, like that is legally what you own. And I can say this because my husband's a surveyor, and Texas just has really weird. I mean, I think all across the U.S., a lot of this stuff was established back when, the official ways they had of doing things were the tracks, things you could put, landmarks you could put in the ground. And so ideally there's like wrought iron pins that are, showing where the corners of the tracks are, but it can be difficult to identify this. But where I'm going with this is it's looks to be mostly out of this survey, at least from this initial bit here. There are quite a bit of wells in this survey. So if you were to throw 4,000 acres anywhere in this survey, the likelihood of there being wells already there is quite high. And then, which then leads me to wonder if there's already wells producing, whether or not you knew you had the interest and whether or not you've been collecting the royalty payments or not, it's owed to you. So, Cheryl, have y'all received any royalty payments or any information on any wells that you might have in this area? And there's a bit of a delay on the chat, so sorry if it takes me a while to get back to this. But if y'all have, then that is a good way to help identify where in this. We could also look into those deeds, not today on this office hours, but so where I'm going with this is if you have interest and there are payments that are owed to you, then the operator either has been holding it in a thing called suspense, like they have a suspense account that they are waiting to figure out who to pay it to, but they know that they owe it to somebody. After a certain amount of time, the state requires them to pay interest on that amount. So they do have a reason to try to find the right owner, but it has to be a big enough, I guess, squeeze for them to, was it the juice worth the squeeze there? So they aren't going to really track down a $6,000 owner. They're tracking down the ones who have like $250,000 in suspense. And then after a while, that money can go over to the state unclaimed funds. So those are two things you can check. And, okay, so she says, no, the first thing we knew about it was the offer, and it was from a company that quickly sold it to another company. Okay, so I'm going to let you know that the likelihood of there being wells on the land described is pretty high because of where it is. And then, which also means the likelihood of there being money somewhere that is owed to the estate is decently high. Not a lot of money. This is not like you're going to be a millionaire overnight type of thing. But if they're offering you $6,000, I would say this acreage probably is worth at least 10 to 15, if not a little more. So just because of the general percentages that I see, and that is potentially a lot more just because the title, sometimes they're including so much title work in these smaller parcels that it's just eating up so much of their costs also that they're trying to get it for bottom of the barrel also. this map is showing a rough dollar per acre. So most of this is over $10,000 per acre. If it was over in this corner, kind of over here, where there's not a lot of development and it's kind of the lighter, like the red colors, then even then we're talking to $3,000 to $10,000 per acre. So when we're saying over $10,000 per net royalty acre, and if you say that they say you have 4.37, then that's where our ballpark. Let's just create like we'll create like just a random track here. So I'm going to remove this outline here and just draw something random here. And I'm going to put in 4.376, and it's leased at 12.5%, which is 1/8. So we're just going to go with all the default stuff here and hit create. Oh, maybe not all the default stuff. So Cheryl, this will be yours, Cheryl. Oh, this is a bug. We're getting it fixed, but let's see, 3. We'll just make it 3.7 round. Okay. So when we say net acres right here, that's net mineral acres. And then if you put in 1/8 ownership, then that is a net royalty acre also. So you can click on that and go to it. And I'm going to go ahead and purchase. That was probably should have shown a little quicker, but this report that I'm going to show you is currently $50 per tract. So but I have a master account, so it's free for me. I guess my time. So I just filtered to just Cheryl right here, and it is currently building. And so in the next minute or two, it should be done. But I'll go ahead and, as a thank you for letting me use this stuff for our live, I'll go ahead and put this. I'll send this to you afterwards also. And actually, so I'm making up a parcel, but this is, just keep in mind that this is a very, like, somewhere in this ballpark is what we're talking about. Like, this is 1,400 acres, and you said it's about 4,000, so it's about 4 times the size. Somewhere in this area is what we're talking about. If I refresh this, it's probably getting close to done building. There's a lot of wells here that it's having to go through because we make it unique to the specific parcel that we're looking at. So it's looking at all the units that we think that you would be in and doing all the calculations based on that. So the more wells there are, the longer it's going to take. But let's see. Sorry, my decimal was supposed to be a comma, so the calculation actually comes out to 8.54 royalty acres, and we have multiple surveys. Yes, okay. So at least that. So I'm going to go ahead and, so this is, what's the word, demonstrative tract, just showing somewhere in this area what something could be worth. If we knew exactly where it was, that would change, because where you are specifically matters with oil and gas. So if you're in this little pocket here where there's no wells, then that's going to be worth something different than if you're in this pocket here where there's a whole bunch of wells. And I know that my mouse is very small at this point, but I'm going to go into tract info and edit this to be the 8.54. I think I could put more decimals here. Not that it doesn't really matter once you get beyond the first decimal point, really, but nope. Okay. Jason, another bug. So, yeah. Okay, did you see that it's now built here? So we're just going to put 8. Oh, Jason. We're going to ignore this for right now, and we'll get that all fixed up for you. Okay, dashboard. Now, it got done building, so this is saying that 4.4 net acres, and just in this area here, would be worth around $117,000. Now, I do want you to be very like grain of salt taking this, that it's not saying that you could go out and sell your exact interest for $117,000. It's saying that if you happen to own this exact polygon of land, then if you knew how to properly market it, you could get likely around $117,000. So the two things is that we don't know specifically which lands, and we don't know specifically, is that how that's how much your grandpa purchased, right? Not necessarily how much you individually own. I believe. Let's see. So apply the Michael Scott negotiation approach of rejecting the first offer, show the map, and request a base of US 10K. Yeah, I mean, you could. Yeah, I think that my general rule of thumb is to always ask for double what the first offer is, but I've seen enough offers of like $50,000 for something that ended up being $1 million property that I want to know more information about what I own first. If there's any question about what you own, that's the first thing to figure out. Now, there is a smaller market for these smaller interests. Yeah. So that's what he bought. So the total estate is worth probably in the 100 to 200,000, or that. Okay. Everything that was on that deed, we'll just say, maybe not the entire estate. That's too broad, but everything that was on that deed that he purchased is probably worth in the $100,000 to $200,000 range total. And then that's where you'd look at the flow chart to see how many people it's being divided amongst. Forgot to turn that off. Had to see how many people it's being divided amongst. So if there's 12 cousins and, you get one half of that, and then you have 8 siblings, then it's a very small percentage. But if it's just like you, grandpa to you, then you would have all of that. But it sounds like there's other cousins and other people involved, and so it sounds like that's being divided. Now, that would be the first thing to know, because it's your individual interest. Like, each person has their own sliver of that total that they can sell. So you don't have to sell all together. You don't have to go along with what your other family members are doing. You probably know this already, but it's not straightforward for everybody to know this. So always figure I'll throw it in there, that it's unique to your interest regardless of where it came, what the original description was. So if you have 1/12 of what your grandpa owned, then it's 1/12 times 1/64 times 1/8, and then times the gross acreage, and that's how many net acres you have. And then that would be all you'd be selling. Now, the more you can combine together, the more people you can combine together, the more leverage you'll have. It's much more easy to justify more title work on a $100,000 or $200,000 transaction than on a $5,000 or a $5,000 transaction, or a even smaller. I don't know a lot of people who will actually touch transactions less than 50,000. So the fact that they're offering 6,000 tells me that they're doing a very low level, they're seeing what they can happen to get, is what it's telling me. And so I would expect nothing very close to market value for that type of levels. So it could be that is all of it, but I would definitely want to know more. This will also tell you, so let's say that you're able to figure out, based on the deed, the next step would be to go into the Karnes County records and find this January 26th recorded deed. Most I can't remember Karnes County's range, but at the very minimum, you should be able to go there to the Karnes County courthouse. And if you're anywhere local, I don't think you are. I believe I know we've been talking about different time zones. But okay, so Cheryl says only 4 of us left. So yeah, then it would be a matter of if it's split 4 ways evenly or if it's different percentages for different people. So one option to find those deeds is they're all at the courthouse, but most of these counties that have a lot of activity have more and more online. So Texas File is where I would go for any Texas-related county searches, and that's texasfile.com. You do have to pay for viewing the deeds, but it makes it really easy to research, and it's only $2 to preview a document, and so it's easy to kind of poke around without eating up too much of your costs. And so if you could find the description, that'd be one way to find what you own. But the other thing would be to, in Texas, property owners have to pay taxes on producing wells. So the fact that there's producing wells all in this area would mean that any owners in this area have to pay property taxes on the producing part of that acreage. And because of that, the same way that you can go to the Karnes County CAD is what the Central Appraisal District for Karnes County. So you could go there, and this is actually how a lot of these mineral buyers are getting this information, is because it's public domain who owns the property because of property taxes and that being public. This is not going to load, really. Here we go. Come on, Karnes. There we go. So because it's public domain, they can go in and see who owns what, and they can figure out that Mrs. Smith has a 0.2 decimal interest in the Smith 1H well, and they can say, okay, well, she must own enough. They can back into how much property you own and say, I'm going to offer her this much per acre. I don't know where her acreage is, but I know that's somewhere around that Smith well. And that's how a lot of these offers get sent out. So some mineral owners don't know this when they contact me saying that they got an offer, but it's all here. And let's see, so usually, and you can just search, if you're being paid already, then you could search your names here. If you know other names in the family, or if you have those family names, if you want to start with your grandpa's name, you could search here. It's not 100% in terms of, it's whenever the operator drills the well, they'll do a title opinion to figure out who they need to pay, and they'll tell the county that. So you're kind of assuming that they got it right the first time, and that the data got to the county correctly, and it has many changes since then, and all the stuff got there. So there's a lot of assumptions. But in the records and data, there's also, where is it? Certified mineral appraisal roll. This, they do one each year. This has every single mineral owner in the county that's paying taxes. So it's a big file. It's going to come in as a zip file. You can unzip it. There should be PDFs and Excel files, and it will say who all the people are, where they live, how much the appraised taxable value is, and similar to how you would not sell your house for your county's appraised tax value, you wouldn't want to sell your minerals even more so for the county's appraised tax value, but it's what the taxes are based on. And so you can go in and get all that information there. If you can find generally where it is, and we'll wrap up soon, but if you can find, let's say that it's not here, it's actually over here, or let's say that it is, like, this does overlap with where some of these wells are, or where some of the acreage descriptions are. You could go to, if I go back to the dashboard, we let you know which wells should be active and who the operator currently is. Now we're working on getting a link in there also to make it easy to contact the operator, but if you search like how to contact, royalty owner Murphy Exploration, for example, or royalty owner contact 1776 energy operators, then you should be given either a phone number or an email address to contact. And if you think that you have land, if that land is actually what's described up here, let's say that it's somewhere in here, then you could start contacting these operators and say, hey, I don't know a lot about my interest. I'm the descendant of this person, and I think that I should have ownership in these wells. Could you, do you have any of these names in your title records, in your suspense payments? Is there anything you could help me with? I just don't have a lot I'm working with. You just be super duper nice and give them all you have to help them get a head start on the research. And then sometimes you can get a really good division order analyst or royalty specialist that works for the company that can send you down the right path. You might just get we don't have anyone with that name in our records, sorry, response. But at least that's data also. So that's another way to go about it. And then also checking the Texas Unclaimed Funds is another place to go, looking for any names that it might be under. So I really would be surprised if 4,000 acres in that survey did not have any producing well. Like if it was somehow in a place where there's no producing wells, that'd be weird, but it's possible. But I would assume that there was. So that's where I'd start. In terms of balancing cost versus, time, and that's really independent on how much is what are your goals? What do you like doing? What are I go to zoom in a little more in terms of this cost involved to get detailed information. I think there is a lot of public research you can do. We try to provide very low cost ways to start that search. And, people, I don't think most mineral buyers should be most mineral owners should be leaning on the buyers to provide them information. So, it sounds like this buyer gave y'all a flow chart and things to work with. Continue to ask for more. Getting your stuff filed with the county. So a clear title is another way to get more, make your minerals worth more. But really just getting things cleaned up in terms of knowing where it is, knowing which wells that you might be in, contacting those operators, making sure there's no money in suspense, checking the state website. And then once you've gone through all those things, that's when I would accept one of those flyers or one of those $6,000 just quickie offers. Or if $6,000 just, if the difference between $6,000 and $100,000 isn't worth your time, there's definitely people in the world where that applies to. So that's probably the ballpark we're talking. We're probably not talking life-changing millions of dollars or anything, but definitely more than 6,000, probably in the 50 to probably at the absolute high end. Let's do an absolute high end range here. If this is worth around, we'll just pick the high end, 30,000 per acre, and there's 8 acres, and then we'll just throw in some suspense funds for kicks. I can't remember exactly, so I'm ballparking 8.5 times 30. So then 255,000 plus maybe double that in suspense, $500,000. That's probably the high end of what I would say, the potential for this to be. And it's never the high end, right? Unless you're just the luckiest person ever. So yeah, I think the $100,000 range is probably where we're looking, if not between 20 to 100,000. But I hope that gives you a starting place to know if it's worth the time and money to invest in it, and how much money to invest in it, and where to go. And then, so I know we won't go forever on this, but let's see. How can we get our names listed with the county when we don't have anything but the names of multiple surveys, no legal descriptions at all? So what you would do is similar to what they did in that. So first, I would go through a landman or an attorney. We have a couple names of people that we recommend for this type of stuff where you just need to get a deed filed. But there's affidavits saying that I am the granddaughter of so-and-so. Here, here's and here's the lineage. Here's why I believe I own this. You might have to, if the estate would need to be probated to figure out that he didn't will it to somebody else. But there's steps involved, and that's where it gets outside of my expertise. But there's the absolute minimum thing you could file would be just hey, I think that I'm the owner. Here's my contact information. There's minimum things you can file, and then there's the full kit and caboodle way to file it, saying that I specifically own this. It's being transferred from this estate to this entity, and all those official things. That would be kind of the range of how to do it. The nice thing is that fixing it for one family member should also fix it for the other family members, and whoever's buying it from you also would need to fix that in county records. So since there's been a sale in the county records from a cousin to that buyer, they might already be filing those things because they just need to show the title. And ultimately, you want the count, you want it to be on record in the county, but really who you need to get on your side that it's yours and you own it is the operator of the wells. And so figuring out who the operator is and then saying, hey, here's all the things that I know about it. There's not a probate, but here's there maybe you don't have all the things check marked, but you can provide enough to the operator that they're willing to send you the money for that those payments. That is probably way more than you actually wanted to know. I think I'll give it one more second for last questions, but. Frank, what would you say is the ratio of mineral owners that are mom and pop compared to private LLC? Ratio-wise, I know that there's estimates of around 12 million mineral owners in the U.S., if that gives you a feel for how many mineral owners there are. And just in terms of number of mineral owners, and excluding family entities like LPs and LLCs that people set up for their own assets, excluding that. Wait, is that what you're talking about? Like mom and pop being just like a general owner, or mom and pop being a small business? I could see it going. My mind's taking it both ways. But assuming it's regular public person who is not intentionally seeking out oil and gas assets versus someone who is intentionally seeking out oil and gas assets. We'll bucket it like that. In terms of numbers, I would probably say, it's a very rough number, maybe half. And only because the ones who are intentionally seeking it out own a lot. So, and then that also includes, I would also bucket the university lands and state lands in that kind of intentional ownership, but it's not really either one. But that is also another big portion of it. But there's numbers wise, there's a very large number of individual owners. There's more and more private and public even owners of minerals, like the aggregators and the big public companies that have public investment funds like Sitio and is it Viper? Is Viper still? They merge and change so often that Kimball, is that another one? Where their percentage is increasing, but it's a hard game to try to aggregate these minerals into a big position, and that is part of the problem of the mineral space. Is if you're trying to get into it and you're trying to amass together a big portfolio, you're having to buy it from all these little sources, and people like Cheryl who might not know hardly anything about what their minerals and you're trying to offer it like this. The buyer number 1 and buyer number 2 are probably trying to amass a portfolio either to flip, which is very common. There's a flipping game in minerals, just like there is in houses. Or they could be amassing it for a wealthy family in order to help diversify their family's accounts. Like maybe they're very wealthy, like private wealth management type of situations. Or it could be maybe that's their business plan, is to work hand in hand with an operator. Like they know an operator really, really well, and they're going to purchase minerals that are aligned with that operator, because then they know they have maximum knowledge about what's going on. They know how that person operates the wells. They know where they're going to drill. They know like where to pick up acreage. Like there's a lot of strategies, but yeah, my guess would be half. Value-wise, that's different. I would say value-wise, we're probably looking at, my guess would be closer to like 70-75%. Yeah, but a very small number comparative to the ratio of people. But that's probably enough for today. I hope that this format was enjoyable. It's helpful for me to have this more free-form, flowing method of getting information to y'all. If you want me to go through your property kind of similar to what I did with Cheryl's, I'm more than happy to, if you're willing to do it through a live stream. The only reason I wouldn't do more of those is because I like to have that second watch through of the video to make sure I need to blur out anyone's names. But as long as I have enough prep time ahead of time to make sure that I'm blurring out anything that needs to be blurred out, then, or if you want to send me like pre-redacted deeds or things that helps me look through it on a public forum like this. And really right now, this public forum is kind of the only time I'm able to make space for in my schedule. And even that, it's still rough, but I'm working on it, and this is fun for me, and I want to keep doing it. So thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting the live stream. And if y'all want to check out pecanestimate.com, that is our website. And that's our company. So thanks for following us, and we'll talk to y'all soon. Bye.